We're Alex and Stu, old friends living in different countries, talking about our lives as creative professionals, the things we're into, what we're learning, and telling tales of the fun we're having along the way.
This is our way of helping to have a glass half full approach to life, and we're hoping it can help you too. Welcome to The Last Half.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome
Episode
back.
3.
Whoa, we're getting there. We're on a roll.
Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk we could get so far?
So,
How we doing?
Not too bad, mate. It's been a busy week, a good week. But yeah, not doing too bad. Keeping well. Yeah, you were just saying the weather's not as good over in Spain where you are. It's been gloriously sunny here. So sorry, sorry, Stu.
Good. Yeah, no, unbelievably jealous because it's been terrible for the last 10 days and I don't know what to do with myself now.
Oh.
So smallest violin in the world being played right here.
Yeah, I can't hear it. You might have to turn it up a little bit. Can you hear that at home? No,
yeah,
not,
I don't think there's much sympathy from our 7 listeners.
Yeah.
Which is actually an interesting starting point, actually. So, how are you getting into this podcast? How are you finding it?
What do you mean? Oh, are you talking to our viewers, Stu? Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, Alex.
What am I getting into? What do you mean? I mean, I'm enjoying it. I think it's good to be able to think about what we're going to talk about, what we're going to say to each other. Because I think things happen in life and you can just accept that they've happened and move on and you forget them. You might tell a couple of people over the course of the week, but to actually be able to reflect on that, it's amazing what you recall and what you come up with and actually what become your highlights. And that's been quite interesting to experience and to be thinking about. So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's been good to hear from some people listening as well. So hello if you've said that you've been listening to the podcast, and we appreciate it. But yeah, it's been good to hear that you've been enjoying it and getting to know us a bit better, getting to know a bit more about our past. And it's good. It's good to be starting to have a bit of a dialogue with people that are tuning in or watching us on YouTube. Yeah, what about you, Stu?
That was basically my answer. I'd pre-noted what I wanted to say about what the positive side effects of these 2 episodes have been, other than the extra editing and mixing work we've got ourselves into.
Yeah.
No, it's been amazing that how some of the people that have got in touch and said, "Oh, I really enjoyed the podcast." Obviously, a load of bullshit. They're just being nice, but it's amazing how people come out and sort of the people you haven't spoken to for ages and suddenly have sort of checked out. And so, yeah, I wanted to just say thanks to everyone so far for checking it out, and all of our 8 listeners in Leighton Buzzard, which Buzzsprout tells us that is our strong hotspot.
Really? Leighton Buzzard? That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and 1 person in Amsterdam and 1 person in Berlin. So we've gone European at this point, which is great.
Probably a random LinkedIn connection that we've made over the years. We've publicised the podcast.
Well, accidentally clicked on the wrong button, I imagine, on Spotify and gave it a listen.
Fair play.
But no, it's been nice, isn't it? Like, it's cool to not reflect, I suppose, and sort of say, oh, actually, what have I enjoyed, or what has gone on in the last 2 weeks? And also for me, like, before each episode, I think, right, what am I going to talk about? Instead of rambling for the last 3 minutes, I actually do think about what we're going to talk about and try and discover more things that are cooler than probably what I would normally say. So it's like, shit, I need to look cool, pretend that I'm cool. So I almost go out and try and make sure that I have something to bring to the table at the show and tell.
That's good.
This Thursday has for us. But yeah, it's been really interesting to look at the stats as well, like, of our very small and dedicated and humble audience. Apparently it's a 74% strong male gender listenership, and of no one outside of the ages of 28 to 44 years old. So we very much know that our middle 30s are our listenership, and that's
hitting our demographic, right? That's our demographic. So that's who we are. So that's quite good. That's not a bad thing at all.
Exactly. So every episode we have our 4 sections. I think we'll start with what we always start with. And before we get into fun, love and life, let's start with work. Work. Won't do that again. Sorry.
Please don't. Oh, can we just do a cheers? Because we do a little cheers, don't we? Because we have a little drinky poos. Where's the camera? Here we go. Cheers, Stu.
Cheers, Alex. Cheers, everyone who's tuning in.
Episode 3. I've gone non-alcoholic. Oh god, that's strong. But I've gone with a
strong non-alcoholic.
Well, yeah. When I describe what this drink is, Stu, you're going to be like, "What?" It's ginger ale with grenadine. So grenadine is that sort of liqueur, the cherry liqueur, or is it cherry? Yeah, I think it's cherry liqueur. A little bit of that in some ginger beer or ginger ale. Nice non-alcoholic.
I'll a really boring story about grenadine. When I was 17, and of the 4 people that do listen to this podcast, 2 of them know this story probably. I was at a house party when I was 17, just started college, and everyone was very drunk, including myself. I do like a drink every so often. And I remember someone brought some like pack of loads of different drinks, and in that was various different spirits, including another little bottle of grenadine. I had no idea what grenadine was at the time, and I was so drunk. Someone said to me, "Oh, I've got this. It's really strong. Do you want to try it?" And I had a really strong vodka or something. And I said, "Yeah, I'll swap you. I'll have that grenadine. It's great. It's super strong." Spent the whole night pretending I was drunk, and then realized that grenadine the next morning was what it actually was. So that's my memory of grenadine anyway.
It's quite strong. Did you mix it with something, or was it like neat?
No, I don't know. I don't.
Oh, you must have done.
Definitely did. I had already drank enough, obviously, at that point. So, yeah, it's been a while, but
fair enough. I'd recommend it if you like a nice, refreshing. This is my first tip of the podcast. Ginger ale, diet ginger ale, which is fairly inexpensive, and then just a splash of grenadine. I don't know how. I must have been making a cocktail or trying to make a cocktail and tried it without the alcohol in it. It probably would have been a gin-based cocktail. And yeah, I thought, that tastes quite nice by itself. So why not have that as a refreshing drink instead of a Pepsi or something? So
sure.
Yeah, and been enjoying it. I don't know. I keep forgetting to hit my camera when I'm speaking, Stu. So there you go. There's my face. Back to the picture. I try to remember so it's just not you big screen the whole time. But yeah. What are we talking about? What's this first one? It's been a long week.
This was supposed to be the professionals, as creative professionals.
What work?
This is a section where we show and tell what's been going on in our careers.
Work. Okay.
What I wanted to share this week with regards to work is not something I've done, but an app that I came across a few weeks ago, actually now, called Snipd, which is SNIPD. So I listened to my podcast, or at least I have done up until recently on Spotify. But what's great about Snipd is it's a podcast platform which allows you to automatically transcribe and take highlights and notes from podcasts and queue up whatever podcast you want to listen to over the course of the future. So what's amazing about that is, obviously, if you know that, okay, well, I really want to be able to take away and read up on what I'm actually listening to. Sometimes, you don't have the time to actually consume a podcast in the way that you'd like to. So what's cool about it is you can take snippets and take memories from these podcast transcripts that are automatically created, and you'll get, let's say, a weekly email based on which your favorite podcasts are, and it'll have like those highlights. So you can just suddenly deep dive or quickly dip in and out of podcasts that you like without actually listening to them and see, oh, that's a cool chapter. I'm going to check that out. It's just a different functionality to it. And I like the queue function that they've just added. So rather than so say, for example, if you favorite or add to my episodes, I think it is on Spotify, there's no guarantee you're going to, you can't reorder it. It's just in an order of like latest first or whatnot. So you can create a proper podcast queue and that sort of automatically generates as well. And yeah, it's a really cool function to have, really. Again, I do, obviously podcasting is a huge part of my income stream. So it's really handy to sort of keep on top of podcasts. And sometimes you just don't catch that week's episode, but hang on, you see that email and you'll see, oh, what have been the highlights of that? And you kind of can digest that quickly without having to listen to the whole thing. So that's super cool tool.
That's automated. So they just, or was, someone be highlighting what those best bits are.
Yeah. So you will add your favorites and to your list, and then that automated email that you get every so often. I think it's every week. Adds in the best bits that they sort of automatically generate. I don't know how they can sort of say, "Oh, this is a highlight" and whatnot. But yeah, it's just a cool little tool, I thought.
Yeah, I wonder if they can do it based on data from listeners, like peak engagement moments within the podcast or something like that, or if it's purely like audibly. It seems like there's a single person speaking for a considerable amount of time. Therefore, in that waveform, we're going to trim that moment out and say that's a highlight.
Yeah, I just think also there's sometimes just reading, like listening to a podcast, not only is just for a bit of fun. I think sometimes there's a lot of people that use it for educational and informative purposes. So being able to have that in text format is pretty handy. So yeah, that's my share.
Nice. Well, I don't know if I found anything as useful as that, Stu. This week it's been, when this isn't a weekly podcast, but I guess a couple of tools that I use that might be worth talking about. So we all know we've got the new Mac Mini to do the podcast, and that's been working really well.
You got to change your camera, mate. It's just my mug again. Come on.
Thank you, Stu. Reminder. It's the habit. I need to get, it's the habit of doing it. Right. Sorry, I let you all down, viewers. What was I talking about? Oh, tools that make work more efficient. So there's something in the podcasting world that's been used quite a lot, especially for like live streamers, gamers, Twitchers, something called a Stream Deck. So a Stream Deck is essentially a series of 15 buttons on a pad that you can program to execute tasks in unison. So, for example, when we're recording the podcast and we're recording video as well as audio, I'm able to, if I remember, switch between cameras and scenes in our software called OBS using the Stream Deck. So I can hit a button like this, and it will change the video from a single screen of myself or Stu to a two-shot. So it's quite useful, really. It's like a live video switcher that I'm able to utilize for different types of software. So I'm using that for those features in OBS to switch between camera angles and play the idents and switch to a screen share, etc. But you can also use it for applications such as Photoshop, and you could use that to run an action. So actions are it's basically a sequence of changes, a sequence of edits that you would want to make. So it might be you want to mask out a person, you want to desaturate the background and add a tonal curve to the image. You want to edit it. You can streamline that edit by collating those actions together and creating this single action that can then be reflected in a button. So I can hit the button and it will run the action for me that maybe manually would take me, say 45 seconds to do. It's instantaneous. It will take, I hit the button, I don't have to do anything. The program will just run through that sequence of changes. So that's pretty cool. And you can use it. I use it in here to like turn on the lights that I need for filming. I hit a button and all the lights come on. I hit it again and they all turn off.
Have you got your lights hooked up to Alexa as well?
I do. So yeah, obviously I can verbally turn them on, but it's quite nice to sit down at the desk.
I can't wait to put in the show notes that you verbally turn your lights on.
And you don't? Are you telling me you don't? You don't have?
Well, I do. Just metaphorically speak. Sorry, that's too easy. Come on.
Even in production. So in my job, like going on shoots and lighting scenes, setting up lights and turning them on, I use lights called aperture lights, which is a brand a bit like Arri. And built into these lights is Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and they all connect into an app. So you don't have to walk around and manually turn the brightness up and dim it down of these lights anymore. You can literally do it from your phone, or you could do it through your voice. So you can change it from 20% to 50%. You can turn multiple lights on and off at the same time. You can change their color automatically. Like all these things can be done through an app. So it's cool to have that at work. But then, yeah, at home, I'll walk into the living room, Alexa, turn on the living room, and the lights come on how I want them to come on. The TV comes on, the Sky Player comes on, all that stuff is automated. So Stream Deck is just another tool that allows me to automate functions. You know, creating this podcast, we wanted it to be as frictionless as possible to sit down and start talking. And I think, you know, yes, we're on episode 3. Yes, there have been the gremlins that we're trying to work out and combat, but we've certainly found a process that's far more frictionless in getting it live to our listeners and viewers, you know, within a couple of hours as opposed to maybe several hours. So yeah, anything that I can find that helps me automate processes and create more of a frictionless process in creating something, it captures my attention. So yeah, the Stream Deck is definitely one of those things. And I guess it's a bit like yours, Stu, where you were just saying about that piece of software. Like the reason to use that is to automate a process that enables some sort of easier usage for you. Like if you can use that data, you can use that information without much work needed from you, then it's useful. So
yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting tool. Obviously, I'm nowhere near as hands-on with it as you are, being the man behind the desk currently. I see obviously a lot of clients that I work with and very much getting into the video podcasting world as well. That's starting to really become a thing. And obviously then you get into the question of, well, if we're video podcasting, we have to make sure that the performances are on point and what's being said is on point, which is where we struggle clearly. But a lot of what it comes into the planning, right? Because otherwise, if you're going to start editing a video, it takes time, but also you can't be as selective in your cuts, because you'll end up with jump cuts all over the place and it'll just feel completely unauthentic, which is against all of the point of a podcast, really. And that sort of communication. So I think it's a really interesting tool. I was going to ask, do you know if it works within Premiere as well? You say it works in Photoshop, right?
Yeah. No, it works with so many different pieces of software, probably all of the Adobe ones. But yeah, you can it allows you to create so many mixes of scenes. It's like switches as well. You know, it's like you can create a sequence of switches. You can turn things on, turn things off. You can reduce volume. You can mute microphones. You can essentially.
And how does that like? So let's say we're not doing what we're doing right now, and you're not in Adobe Suite. And does it have like a mode where it's like this is house mode, and then you have to switch it to Adobe mode? Like, how does that?
No, it's a good question. So it's always on. It's got its own software that's installed onto your Mac, and you can create different. I forget what they call it. Let me have a look. I think they call it I don't know, like dashboards, right? So you can flick between these different dashboards. So you could create a custom dashboard for, say, what we're doing within OBS, and that's just, for me, it's called podcast. So I switch that to that dashboard, and it's just podcast. I could then customize a whole different dashboard for Photoshop and just switch over instantaneously. I did.
You just switch your camera axis.
Switch over instantaneously to Photoshop. And then all of the buttons on the Stream Deck change appropriately to that. So you can go through tens and tens of those. There's no limitations to how many. And also there's no limitations to how many buttons you can create. You essentially then create pages that you can flick through. So if you've got 15 buttons, but you want to have 30 actions associated to Photoshop, you just create a new page, and then you would just flick through that page on your Stream Deck until you came to the action that you wanted to use. So yeah, so it's pretty cool to automate that. I quite like just sitting down at the computer, hitting a button, and everything that I need just opening up automatically.
This is cool. Not only for work, but also for a lot of fun, which brings us to our next section. Fun. No, fun. Sorry.
No.
Right, shall we redo the whole thing just because I've completely ruined it off the back of that?
We're getting warmed up now. I think, we're probably, how long? 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in. I think we're getting warmed up. So it's all good, Stu. Fun. What has been happening that's fun this week? I've been listening to and watching a lot of Louis Theroux. I do like
Awesome.
I do like watching TV and I like watching films, but I've always loved Louis Theroux ever since Weird Weekends. I've bought the DVDs. I've got the book, but I haven't read it yet. But it's lined up to enjoy that. But I've been watching his latest documentaries, and I've been listening to his podcast series called Grounded, and it's been great. It's been great to digest Louis Theroux in a different way, and listening to it via a podcast, listen to him audibly interview a person has been quite good. So yeah, I was listening to Louis interviewing Riz Ahmed, the actor. Also listened to him interviewing someone called Leah Rahimi, who is an actress from a TV show that I watched growing up called King of Queens with Kevin James, and it was just a hilarious comedy that would usually be on at 8:30 in the morning or something. And but she's kind of what do they call it? She was a Scientologist. She was part of Scientology. She was at level 5 of 8 within the Scientology ranks. She was quite high up, and essentially Louis had made a documentary about Scientology in which he had interviewed her before, and he's been on her podcast reciprocally. But it was quite interesting to hear them chat again on the podcast where they dug a bit deeper, and you started to hear some things about Scientology and the inner circle, the inner workings, that was, very revealing and, and damning from their perspective. And so, yeah, it's quite interesting to hear that. I mean, I'm not to judge, and Louis was doing very well not to judge that religion or just belief. But she was essentially saying to Louis, like, why are you trying to protect it? Like, why are you sort of walking the line, straddling the fence, so to speak? Louis was just like, I'm just trying to be fair. Like, I think, he's, and that's something that has always reflected to me on Louis, is in his interviewing style, in his documentary making, he's always been fair to whoever he's been talking to or whoever he's been telling the story of. So, he has a very interesting manner and technique to dig in deeper without offending someone, because he tries to treat them fairly. And there's only occasions where he'll kind of, be pulled up in frustration and lose his patience and kind of has to push it to what he really thinks. So yeah, he was getting some really good stuff out of her. And same with Riz Ahmed. British actor. He was digging in and asking some really interesting questions, but it was very relaxed, and it helped pass the time of a 3-hour drive that I did this week. And it made that time go a lot quicker than it would have if I was listening to music, for example. So yeah, on long drives and when I have that passive time to fill, I definitely feel like I'm getting more value out of listening to a podcast than I would music. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that, and I'm looking forward to reading his book. I think to find out a bit more about Louis' background, which you do find out a bit more about in his podcast, I think is something that I'm looking forward to getting stuck into, and we'll probably talk about in future episodes of our podcast.
I heard one episode of his Grounded series. He interviewed Rylan.
Yes, I've heard that.
Have
one.
You seen it? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a really respectable guy. Like, he was such a comic character, wasn't he, when he turned up on the scene ages ago, and you just kind of thought he was a bit of an arse. But then now you're like, okay, he's actually cool and totally legit, really intelligent. It's like, okay. So that was really fascinating to listen to that. And I've seen various documentaries of his, and Not enough. I know a lot of friends of mine really enjoy it, and I need to spend a lot more time. And I think it's cool. Sometimes, it's almost in the middle of that, easy to watch, but not as deep as, say, like a 2-hour film. But it's like 1 hour long, so it's just a bit of escapism or something that's just not anything like your life, because he goes into such weird scenarios and different things to check out. So I think that's half of the fascination with it as well.
Yeah. What about you, Steve? What about some fun for you?
My fun involves, it's fun in a way that right. I'm a big barbecue fan. Being where we are, we get to be outside a lot, and I bought a really nice barbecue a couple of years ago and got into that, and unfortunately had a bit of an incident the other day because we had a really big storm and a palm tree fell on my barbecue. So
dear. That
was the first thing I woke up to at 7 o'clock in the morning and saw that. So I wanted to cry. Anyway, yeah. So now just starting to look, got an insurance claim through, thank God. And now starting to look at new barbecue. So that's exciting. What was more interesting was a week ago, I got the Ooni that we talked about the other day, I got a iron skillet. So like a big sort of 60 centimeter square reversible iron skillet griddle to be able to cook meat in my Ooni, which is awesome. So really high temperatures. So because my steak game needs upping, mate. I don't think you can ever be happy with your steak game, but I really need to.
Tell us about your steak process so far, Stu. How do you approach tackling a steak? So I have a technique, but it'd be interesting to hear what yours is.
I, up to this point, would always sort of cook it on the top shelf I'd use the barbecue like an oven.
Yeah.
So slowly cook it for a little bit and then sear it on the side burner on the barbecue. And I would always heavily salt and pepper it and season it before, making sure that it's obviously been in room temperature for a certain amount of time as well.
Yeah.
I know there's plenty of people who are saying, oh, you don't need that much, but I watched Gordon Ramsay videos quite a lot, and he does it. And if Gordon Ramsay does it, then who the hell am I to tell Gordon, bless him, that that's not how you cook a steak? So, yeah, it's fine. But a side burner definitely adds something. But I reckon the Ooni would add even more because it's even hotter. So, I'm excited to get hold of a juicy, what they call chuleton here, which is like a big, big steak on the bone.
Well, I was going to ask what your favourite steak is. So what cut would you go for if you
I haven't got a clue what they call it here, mate. It's just called chuleton. It's on the bone, it's like a T-bone, I guess. Like
T-bone steak, yeah.
Something. As long as it's thick. I think that's the depressing thing, isn't it? When you sometimes go to these supermarkets and you buy, oh, that looks all right, and then the minute you start cooking it, it just becomes this like frying steak, which is just depressing.
Yeah, I think there's, I'm a ribeye guy, so I like that bit of fat marbling through. But I've seen a lot of steaks cooked slowly, and I don't know how you like yours. I like mine kind of medium rare. So for me, it's always about, and I haven't cooked one on the barbecue, but it's getting that pan as hot as it possibly can be. Actually melting a little bit of butter and oil into the pan. And then just like literally 2 minutes on each side of the steak. I'll salt and pepper it as well, but it's 2 minutes each side, done. Like, don't overthink it, don't overdo it. I'm probably one of the only people that I know that likes it like that. Like everyone else kind of wants it a bit more medium to well done.
It's just horrific, isn't it? It's so depressing when you've done it and then you didn't mean to, and it's just like, oh God.
Yeah. But there's different, tools and equipment like you're saying about getting and using. What I'd really love to do is actually get into some like slow cooking, like brisket and stuff, which is a bit different to barbecue. It'd be more like a smoker, wouldn't it?
Well, I got like a smoking box, so you put wood chips in it, and you get the barbecue really hot, leave that on top of the barbecue, close it off, and then that starts smoking. Obviously, you have different flavour wood chips and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. Like a bit of a faff. And you need the time to do it, and you have to accept that you're going to use a shed load of gas on it rather than doing what you normally do. But it's cool. Like if you know that, oh, hang on, I've got a decent piece of meat, I really want to make this work, then that's a nice little add-on to have. And the new barbecues, I'm looking at a hybrid. So you can have, it's obviously gas, but you change some of the on
Yeah.
top of the burners you can put on like actual charcoal, so it burns through the charcoal, and you'll have half and half. So that's interesting. I'm not massively sure if I want that, but I'm keen to try out stuff. So we'll see. The only thing is at the moment, like with everything that's going on in the world, getting hold of a barbecue from the US or UK means that you're paying double than what you would have done 2 years ago. So just got to make sure. And that's half. Like I've got a really nice 6-burner barbecue. Had a really nice 6-burner barbecue, and now can't possibly go back to a 4-burner. Alex, this would be poverty.
No, you'd have to upgrade, wouldn't you? I mean, I'm still sticking with the trays out the petrol station, you know, so you're far ahead than me. And I reckon it's pretty good, like, aftermarket for barbecues as well, especially damaged ones. So you probably could get a bit of money to contribute towards that as well, couldn't you, from second-hand market?
That's the plan. All a bit of fun. All a bit of fun. And I do love my barbecues. Oh, speaking of love, that's our next section.
Cool. Love is in the air. I love food, Stu. It's starting to show. I've definitely put on a few pounds, and the summer's coming for me fast. I need to sort it out.
If your thing is sorting it out, do it now, because what's about to hit you this summer means you will not do any exercise whatsoever.
That's what I'm thinking. Go hard now.
Just accept it.
Yeah, right. Go hard now. Try and lose a few. But what I do love is food, and this week I've managed to eat some good food, some dirty food though, some dirty burgers. Managed to go to a place in Durham called the Fat Hippo, which kind of alludes to what's happened. And it's a burger joint. It's a really good burger joint, and I ordered a burger, and it was called the PPJJ, I think. The PPJJ. It's a peanut butter and jelly burger. So it had 2 juicy burger, what would you call them? Burger steaks. I don't know. Peanut butter spread onto the bun, and it had like like sweet chili jam. It was like a sweet chili jam in the burger as well. I obviously had mine gluten-free and dairy-free, so it kind of maybe took a bit of the joy out of it. But it was filthy and it was delicious. And I'm a big lover of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So, yeah, I've never had one before. It immediately caught my attention when I looked at the menu. And as soon as I saw that I could have it gluten-free and dairy-free, I was like, I'm there. So I had that. Some equally gluten-free, dairy-free loaded fries to accompany it. And it was delicious. Was
it one of those burgers that was so good you didn't... Oh, after some burgers and it's bad for you and you have it and it tastes great at the time, but immediately after you regret it. This wasn't one of those occasions, was it?
It wasn't. And I don't know, because my bun was maybe slightly smaller because it was one of the gluten-free ones, and maybe because it didn't have cheese in because it was a dairy-free one, but I didn't regret it. It tasted good. It was a good quality burger. It wasn't a dirty burger, a Mondo burger as we call them. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mondo burger.
Yeah, of course, mate.
What was it? Is it Keenan or Kel? Keenan and Kel.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of a good burger. Can I take your order?
There we go. I did have a Mondo burger though on the drive back, where I think we left about 6 p.m. on a 3-hour drive, and by 7:30 I was starving. So we stopped at McDonald's and I got a big tasty, and attempted to eat it whilst driving, with one hand on the wheel, obviously. But it just completely disintegrated. I don't think I've ever had a big tasty. It's pretty big, and it just completely disintegrated in front of me. It was pitch black, so I couldn't see what was going on. But as soon as I got home, opened the door, the light came on, and I'm just covered in lettuce, burger sauce, all down my t-shirt.
Happens to us all.
It tasted good though. When you're starving, you just want a burger. Big taste is the one to go for. Here's a tip for
you. When you cook your burgers, and if you barbecue burgers, I again, it's Gordon Ramsay. Once you're in the last half of cooking the burger, stick the cheese on the burger and then close the lid so it cooks that cheese on top of it. Marta, my wife, hates it. I love it. Don't know why she hates it.
You can do that in a frying pan as well. Just get a saucepan lid. Yeah. I do that with my when I'm making eggs as well. If you're making fried eggs, pop the saucepan lid on top and it'll cook the yolk. It's another. You don't have to flip it. You don't have to flip the egg.
Insider tricks. You don't learn that before the age of 35. Naturally,
no.
Just listen to this podcast and you'll pick it up.
But yeah, loving food. Been loving it a bit too much. Need to start to not like it as much.
One of the main things in life between food, work, family, there's not much else that you can make you happy. Without those three, you've not got a lot.
Yeah, all in proportion.
Exactly. I'm going to share for my love this week is a YouTube channel that I found recently. I'm a big new metal kid. At the age of 35, my music taste hasn't changed a huge amount since I was 15. So going back to Limp Bizkit days, Linkin Park, Papa Roach, Alien Ant Farm, Incubus, etc., etc. I found a YouTube channel that I'll stick in the show notes, but also we have, I think Alex can bring it up on the screen here. It's awesome. Just really been enjoying this recently. These old VHS videos, literally it's called Liberated Tape Archive, which is shows from when some of the best bands of that era were playing, and they weren't huge at the time. I mean, they were huge. They had that vibe where it was like it was still new, but they were starting to hit it, and everyone was really into it at that time. And it was just awesome. Like, you've got that really typical VHS home camcorder vibe. Like, you can hear that the sound is terrible, but amazing at the same time because it feels raw, but they're so good at what they're doing that it sounds great. So for anyone who's into that vibe, check out the link in the show notes or search Liberated. I forgot what it's called, Liberated Tape Archive on YouTube, and check out those videos. It's just awesome. Like, I was in bands, as anyone who's listening to this podcast probably knows, and it's just everything that I ever loved about being in the band at the time. And yeah, it's cool.
Did you ever see any of these shows, Stu?
These shows specifically? No. The closest I got, there's a Slipknot DVD from like early 2000s. They played at Docklands Arena, and we didn't go to that show because we heard, and this is ridiculous, at the age of 15, someone had told us, oh, don't go to Docklands Arena. The sound is terrible. It's like a big garage. So we made our parents drive us to the Birmingham NEC, living in Luton at the time at the age of 15, like idiots. Somehow convinced my mum and dad to drive us there. Anyway, in the long run, they released a DVD of that show, which is annoying because it was the whole Iowa tour, and we would have been there, but we decided to go to Birmingham instead. So anyway, whatever. Like,
what you're gonna do?
But yeah, big new metal fan, and love that channel. So if anyone enjoys that and sees any other channels, please give me a shout because I'm all over it.
So with new metal, Stu, is there old metal, or is it just metal, right?
Yeah, it's just there is old metal. They just call it metal. Everything before, I don't know, Biscuit came out, what? Biscuit and Korn, like early 90s, soon after Nirvana made a massive difference and hit the scene so big with grunge and everything. It was really like hated. I think anyone who was really a metal head at the time or had any sort of metal maturity hated it because it had this like huge hip hop rap influence, and it was simplified drop D guitars. How can we play a very simple riff? And some of the best songs by some of these bands are the most simple to play, but they're amazingly energetic and raw and powerful. But yeah, it was a real like snubbery to it. And even now, like, everyone sort of looks back on it. Anyone who wasn't a fan looks back on it and it's like, oh, what a horrible time. And it's like, no, mate, it's sick. Piss off. So I don't know. I just every so often, like, you just get back into it. It's weird because I don't discover new music like that anymore. I'm sure it still exists, but I just don't listen to it like enough. But yeah, great time. Great time in my life. Like now, every time is a great time in my life. I wanted to ask about your life though before I bore everyone else with mine, mate. What's been going on in yours?
What's been going on? Still stuff. Still the baby's on the way. Still, that seems to all be going good. I took delivery of my new car that I mentioned in the last episode, and that's lived up to my expectations. That's been great to drive around. I won't talk too much about that, but it's been great. Only driven it a couple of times since we got it on Sunday. Got a little story to share. So last weekend we went and visited my mum, and we went up there and we thought it's mum's birthday. We'll go buy some flowers. We'll pick up a takeaway, and we'll go and see my mum and hang out for a few hours, and have a good time. Give her a really nice day. So we drove all up there, went and got some flowers, got some food, arrive at the door, and we go in. Mum answers the door. We go in, and it's like, oh, flowers, they're nice. And I'm like, yeah, really, really good. And start singing happy birthday. And Mum says, whose birthday is it? And I'm thinking, yours. What do you mean, whose birthday is it? It's your birthday. And she's like, it's not my birthday. My birthday's not until August. So, yeah, I'd messed up. I'd messed up big time. Like, not remembering when my mum's birthday was, number one. I'd received a calendar reminder from Moonpig in my email inbox saying it was my mum's birthday. So I don't know why, but I'd obviously put that date in, or they'd messed up. I don't know, but took it.
That's what, 6 months, 5 months early.
A lot. But I'd had such a such a compact week, so many things going on, so many thoughts going through my brain, that as soon as that email landed in my inbox and said, "Don't forget your mum's birthday's on Sunday," I was like, I didn't even question it. I was like, oh no, okay, cool. We were going up there anyway. I just need to get a car, need to get some flowers, and did not question it once. Probably even worse is Becky didn't question it either. So we were.
Even worse. I don't think you can say even worse.
She's pretty organised. She's pretty on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah. So that was a funny story. So Mum got a lovely bunch of flowers. She wouldn't let me say that they would be for Mother's Day. And we had a great time. But I don't know if I'll ever live that one down. But, forgot Mum's birthday. And it was actually in August, and like 5 months. Oh, no.
I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, how far is she as a drive? How far does she live?
45 minutes away.
Okay, that's still annoying. Like, it's like I didn't need to make that, did I? But
we were going to go anyway. It was just I'd buy my mum flowers anyway. It's not like it was about what we got her. It was like singing happy birthday. It was just singing happy birthday. Whose birthday is it?
I didn't know this story, so I was like, I wasn't sure where you were going with it. I was like, is it he's ballsed up, or was your mum not sure when her birthday was either, and it was going the wrong way? So I was like, oh, shit.
No, it totally makes sense. Once she said it, because I was like, it's never been that close to my birthday. My birthday was only about a month ago. But yeah, it was just one of those weeks. Didn't even question it. So I've gone straight into Moonpig and made sure that date's changed. And I've no idea why it was what it was. So yeah.
Well, I do sympathise, because I was in my final year of university, and I was wrapped up in whatever I was, and my mum's birthday was in May, so you're getting into final year studies and exams and stuff. And I'd forgotten my mum's birthday. I lived 3 hours up the road in Yorkshire, and I'd forgotten. And I remember the guilt was horrific because she texted me in the afternoon and was like, "Oh, you're right." And as soon as she texted me, I was like, shit. Like, I knew. She didn't say, like, it's my birthday. It was like, I just knew. So yeah, and ever since I remember writing her a letter and saying like I'm so sorry. Like I never write my mum letters, but I was just like I want you to know how bad I like feel about this, and it wasn't my intention at all. I've just ballsed up basically, and it's such a guy thing, isn't it? It's such a it's not an excuse, but like also cards are shit. That's my phrase for this podcast. I mean, maybe we can't title it that, but cards are rubbish. Like they don't have birthday cards here in Spain, and thank God, because English people, and I am English, but we as a nation are obsessed with cards for nothing. And I'm so glad it doesn't happen here in Spain, because I forget half the time, and I'm like you, I'll set reminders, I'll have stuff in my calendar. I'm pretty sure I've still got things in my Apple calendar from birthdays from fellow employees or colleagues, clear-head colleagues in my calendar that your business partner had set up in everyone's calendar still, notify me of people I haven't spoken to in 7 years that their birthday's in a week. I'm like, all right, thanks. But it's such a typical guy thing, isn't it? It's like, oh God. Like,
most people I think are fine with just a message, aren't they? A message on Facebook or whatever. But
like it's actually more like I'd rather like people give me a call or say, hey, how you doing? Like I thought I'd give you a shout, like it's your birthday in a week or whatever. Like that for me is more, but obviously that's a little bit more difficult to arrange sometimes. I'm just moaning, mate, doing the old bitter man thing again.
Yeah, I mean, is it better though to have got your mum's birthday wrong than forgotten it completely?
Yes, marginally. But I mean, we're both terrible men.
Fair enough. I'll have to take it.
Thank God we're not bringing children into this world. My life. It does revolve around... Actually, I've been quite quiet with work the last couple of weeks, and I'm not quite sure if it's two things. You naturally doing what we do, we're in project world, right? So you see things coming up and you say, okay, well, by the end of this and this project, maybe I'll start looking for new stuff and whatnot. But that has happened at the very same time that everything's kicked off with Ukraine. And I definitely had one of my bigger clients, they're based in Germany, sort of said to me as things happened in Ukraine, sort of turned and said, look, we can't talk to you for a bit. We need to work out what's going on. So I was like, okay, cool. And you're not sure, they said it was because of Ukraine. I mean, like, yeah, of course it is, that old chestnut. But anyway, so caught up with them again very recently, and they were sort of like, no, it's not anything other than that. It's literally like we can't communicate, we can't do anything, because a lot of our agencies have turned to us and said, look, don't do anything whilst we work out the lay of the land, because it's very hard to, in a time like this, for marketing teams to show the right empathy whilst everything's going on. They can't be like, oh, look at our shiny new products whilst, ultimately people are dying in parts of Europe. So they've kind of had to sort of put a pin in stuff for a while. And I think looking around at other stuff that's happened on my side, and it's starting to kick back up again because people are starting to understand, okay, this is how we communicate whilst this is happening. So I've had a bit of downtime, and that's just been interesting to see how that affected it. And I never thought it would, but it has. And from my side, it's been really nice to actually be around the house a little bit more, and we're doing stuff, renovating outside, and like dedicate some time to that, as well as, and more so to the family and the boys and Marta, and just kind of seeing them grow up a little bit more than certainly I would have been able to do 2 or 3 months ago. Like Adrian, bless him, at 2 years old now, he's becoming more and more like me, which means we end up having run-ins. And he's now very much like becoming a bit of a mummy's boy as well at the same time. So every day I pick him up from school at lunchtime, and I will ask him, oh, how's your day? And he'll say, no, mummy, I'm only going to tell mummy. So we get to the lunch table like 5 minutes later, and I'll say, how's your day? And I'll say, no, mummy. And then Marta will ask, oh, how's your day at college? College, they call it. How's college? And he said, well, we did this and we did that. And I'm like, literally sat next to you, mate. You are mugging me off. So that's funny in a way, but challenging. But it's cool. He's really starting to get into the bilingual way of things, which is an incredible asset to have, will be for him. And I think my challenge is going to be only speaking to him in English now. Like, it's very easy because he can speak Spanish more than he speaks English. Like, I want to communicate with him more So it's easier to communicate with him in Spanish because he'll understand me more. So naturally, I'm like gravitating towards a language that I shouldn't be talking to him. So I need to rein that in and just speak English to him. We speak English in the house. We watch TV in English, like almost categorically only in English. So yeah, he will pick it up. But
has he asked any questions about that? Like, is it just so natural to him, or is that something that gets picked up at school or something? Like. Has there been any
not really.
Or?
I don't think he's like old enough to comprehend that his stuff's different.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's funny. I go and pick him up, and all these, like most of his class is girls rather than boys, and they all they turn up at the gate and they're like, "Adrian, to daddy, to daddy," rather than every other kid will say, "Papa, papa." But for him, it's I don't know. I'm guessing their teacher like says, "Oh, it's daddy," because I'm English.
Yeah.
So there's clearly like stuff that he speaks to me in English about, but he, it's just he's lucky little git, really. I can't call him a git, apparently. My mum doesn't like it when I call him a git. But
there's worse things to call him. I think that's an amazing skill, though, isn't it? To grow up bilingual. I mean, introduce another language into that when he gets into high school. I mean, he could, that'd be amazing.
But I think it's so stupid, like the way the English culture / English educational system doesn't make it absolutely necessary that you speak another language. And I guess the thing is political, right? So how does the UK government choose which is the second language that every child in the UK learns as a child? So they can't just say Spanish, because then the French would go, well, why are you doing French?
Well, I think we're very fortunate, though, aren't we, to speak English, which is one of the most international languages. There's less of an urgency, I guess, a need to learn another language, as opposed to one of the more lesser spoken minority languages.
But it's just a thing, isn't it? It's kind of like you get to, I remember, it might have changed now, but I remember we got to 14, right? And it was like, oh, do you want to carry on learning German? No, I'm all right. At 14, why would you want to? So you're just going to say no, whereas it should be at least, I don't know, I don't know if it's changed. I mean, it was so long, you're talking 20 years ago, right? So it's hard to know. But I think, the boys in this house are very lucky to be able to soon be able to speak 2 languages, and it's fun to see it happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to have to speak to them, and I can't speak Spanish, so you
speak good Spanish after a few beers, mate. I've seen you.
After a while, yeah, but no, I don't know much at all, and so it'd be great to be able to have conversations with them in English, and obviously more than me, your mum, your dad, your brothers, his cousins, to speak in English. Will be amazing, because that is otherwise a very alien, distant kind of thing to have, isn't it, relationship wise?
We never I can't imagine like the hurt that my mum and dad, for example, would feel if they went to see us after not seeing us for a couple of months, as is the nature of the beast that we live in. I can't imagine the hurt they would feel if they turned up and said something and he looked at them and went, "What? I don't know what you're saying," and just turned around. Like, that's not going to be great if that ever happens.
No.
So I want to make sure that isn't a thing. But yeah, that's, most, as I say, mostly over the last couple of weeks, like having a bit of extra time to enjoy them. And there's definitely challenges as always.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of it's like I've kind of learned to take myself out of the firing line on certain moments. Like, I'm at my weakest at lunchtime because I'm hungry. I'm an abysmal person when I'm hungry. So if I then go have an abysmal 2-year-old screaming at me and telling me that he doesn't want to eat the food that Marta's cooked, and just being abysmal, I'm like, look, we'll deal with him after. I'm going to eat and I'm not going to talk to you, because it's not like, rather than like trying to control it. And I think that's been the learning, and I'm still learning it slowly but surely. I can't control everything. He will be a loud 2-year-old at times, or a loud 6-month-old. Like, just let it go. Like, you can't be in control. It doesn't make you a bad father. What makes you a bad father is if you react in a way that you shouldn't, whether it be screaming at them or whatever else. It's like, that isn't going to help anything. And it's so easy to do it. Like, that's your natural reaction, to be like, I'm the alpha man, I'm going to take control of the situation. And no, it's like, just let it go. That doesn't make you a bad guy. So yeah, learning that one.
Well, good job.
And that's my life. But yeah, trying to put a positive spin on it because it is the last half of the positive spin that is this podcast. And I think we're nearly at a wrap for this one, mate.
Yeah, I think let's wrap it up. It's been, it's been great to catch up again. Lots of stories to tell. And I think it's, it's just a pleasure to be able to sit down and have a chat, with you and catch up. And again, just thanks for listening, guys. I think, if you'd like to reach out to us and ask us, any questions, or you'd like to hear certain things from us, or you've got any ideas about what we could talk about, just let us know. We'll set up some form of getting in touch, but you probably know us individually at this point, so just reach out and say hello. But yeah, thanks for listening. Stu, any final words?
Final words from me. Check out our YouTube if you're not listening on YouTube. Check out our Spotify if you're not listening on Spotify. We've also got a Twitter handle at The Last Half Pod. But yeah, really enjoying it, guys. I hope you haven't fallen asleep. But if you have, sweet dreams.
Goodbye.